This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Good afternoon, my Real News Media TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update for February 9, 2023. And in the news this afternoon, police in St. Andrews Central name 11 persons of interest. The St. Andrews Central Police Division Wednesday listed 11 individuals as persons of interest and asked that they report to the Halfway Tree Criminal Investigations Branch by 6 p.m. today. They are Roisin Douglas, otherwise called Rush, Marvin Markland, otherwise called Kevin Powell and Papa, Errol Williams, alias Labo, Howard McFarlane, alias Maury Max, Nicholas Williams, otherwise called Pooh Bear, Ricardo Pinnock, otherwise called Guani, Shaquan Johnson, otherwise called Sonny, Kasif Bennett, alias Jervis, Kenardo Kelly, alias Chin, Sean Dyer, otherwise called Puddy, and Cadian White, otherwise called JJ. According to the Constabulary's Corporate Communication Unit, detectives have identified the 11 as people who may be able to assist them with ongoing investigations within the division. Several attempts, the CCU said, have been made to contact them at their known addresses and phone numbers. However, these efforts have failed. Anyone with information that can assist in locating them is asked to contact the Halfway Tree CIB at 876-926-8185, Crime Stop at 311, the JCF tip line at 811, or the nearest police station. Policeman intervenes and the fires gone in cabby dispute in St. Anne. A taxi operator has been charged with unlawful wounding after a fight between the cabby and his colleague in Claremont, St. Anne on Tuesday, which prompted a plainclothes policeman to intervene and fire a gun. Head of the St. Anne Police Senior Superintendent Dwight Powell confirmed the incident. The taxi operators were fighting in the town of Claremont, where offensive weapons were drawn, Powell told the news. One wounded the other, so the policeman who was passing nearby the incident intervened and had to discharge his weapon to prevent escalation of the incident. A video of the incident has been circulating on social media. The footage shows one of the taxi operators using a weapon to hit the other before a third party said to be a policeman intervenes and fired 2 shots in the air. It is understood that the dispute between the taxi operators was triggered by one of the cabbies refusing to withdraw his services in solidarity with his peers who had planned to stay off the job in protest against the alleged unfair treatment by government. One of the taxi operators suffered non-life-threatening injuries in the incident, Powell told the news. Man in St. Catherine stabbing deemed fit to plead. A man said to be mentally challenged who repeatedly stabbed another in St. Catherine in September 2022 was yesterday deemed fit to enter a plea. The ruling was made in the case against the 44-year-old Marlon Henry in the St. Catherine Parish Court by Parish Judge Desiree Alain. When asked by the judge if he had legal representation, Henry, a laborer of Point Hill in the parish, said no. Henry, who is charged with wounding with intent, was further remanded until February 16. It is being alleged that on September 29, 2022, the complainant was accompanied by a relative on a visit to see a woman. Henry allegedly attacked the man, stabbing him repeatedly. The injured man was taken to hospital, and a report was subsequently made to the police. Following an investigation, he was arrested and later charged. Gunmen kill a 52-year-old woman at her Gergie Park shop. 52-year-old shopkeeper Diana Griffiths became the latest victim slain in the wave of violence gripping the Gulf area of Gergie Park in St. Catherine on Tuesday morning. Griffiths, a Jamaica Labour Party activist whose small grocery store was firebombed in the lead up to the 2020 general election, was sitting in front of her shop about 9:30 a.m. on Tuesday when 3 men approached her. According to eyewitnesses, the woman appeared oblivious to the danger, seemingly believing that the men were approaching to support her business. On reaching close to her, one of the men reportedly brandished a firearm and opened fire, hitting her before leaving the area on foot. A relative who was in the vicinity reportedly rushed to the woman's assistance. But shortly afterwards, the men returned to the scene, firing wildly, causing persons to scamper for cover. No one else was injured. Griffiths was then taken to the Spanish Town Hospital, where she succumbed to her injuries. "She's everything to me. I love her to death," said one grieving family member. As the news of the murder spread, JLP Deputy General Secretary Andrew Wheatley, St. Catherine East Central Member of Parliament Orlando Terrelong, and the Gregory Park Division Councillor Joy Brown visited Griffith's home to console relatives and express condolences. Wheatley dismissed the speculation that her murder could be politically motivated, saying that it was an act of violence by criminal elements exercising wanton disregard for life. "The jury is still out, however, but I don't see the politics at play. I don't want to escalate it to the level of politics. In my opinion, these are just the criminal elements acting up, and this is something we have to try to address," he added. She was known to be a very quiet person, maybe a bit outspoken about things she believed in, but nothing that would warrant her to be murdered in such a heinous manner, Wheatley added. Terry Long declined to comment. Meanwhile, the St. Catherine South Police have identified 3 men who they believe can assist with the investigation. In the One Don Gang trial, Chief Justice questions whether Jason Brown is City Puss. Chief Justice Brian Sykes on Wednesday continued his summation of the evidence in the One Don Gang trial before the Supreme Court. Over the last 2 weeks, Justice Sykes has been going through the evidence submitted by the Director of Public Prosecutions against the reputed gang leader Andre Bryan and his co-accused. The question as to whether defendant Jason Brown was identified by the prosecution's witnesses as a member of the One Don Gang is yet to be answered. Chief Justice Sykes, who is reviewing the secretly recorded conversations between alleged members of the gang, questioned whether the other evidence in the case is sufficient to say that City Puss is in fact Jason Brown, and whether the former Don, who claimed he spoke with the defendant for hours, had identified him. Earlier in the trial, the former Don testified that he recorded the conversations on 3 cellular phones. Justice Sykes said if the former Don's evidence is true, it would show prior knowledge of the voice of City Puss, which would then meet the legal standard of voice identification. During the secretly recorded conversations, alleged members of the gang were heard discussing numerous topics, including a time of famine, brighter days, disloyal members, and the murder plot. In one of the transcripts that was reviewed yesterday, a voice said to be that of City Puss was heard lamenting that there was a need to recruit youngsters to outfit the criminal network. Justice Sykes said even if the former Don's evidence is accepted, the final question is whether the identification of the voice of Jason Brown is accurate. A retired police officer who visited Jason Brown at a penal institution and spoke with him for an extended period of time said Brown had answered to the name City Puss during that interaction. The judge, while noting that Brown did not counter the witness's claim against him, said in his silence, the case would be a classic burden and the standard proof of assessment. In the absence of a sworn or unsworn statement, Justice Sykes questioned whether the prosecution has proven the case against Brown beyond a reasonable doubt. But he said the nature of the recorded conversation between the witness Brown and the sole female defendant Stephanie Cole Christie would not be possible if he was not a member of the gang. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.